You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
And so Miley was in one of our videos briefly, but that's back. That's back when she was a human being and like not a like a weird alien that she is now, like a weird like sex alien or something. I think she's basically what Jared from Subway wants to have sex with, right? Like, I mean, like the legal version of it, but like, she's just like a permanent like 8-year-old boy or something. I don't know. This is probably not. This is gonna get me in trouble, but.
You're listening to the Dave Bullis Podcast.
Thanks again for hitting that play button. It's another episode of the Dave Bullis Podcast. Joining me today is Josh Forbes. Josh is a music video director and filmmaker, and he's currently nominated for a 2015 MTV Video Music Award for directing the video Walk on the Moon's Shut Up and Dance. And he's actually currently running a GoFundMe campaign to actually help him get to the award ceremony. And additionally, Josh just released his first feature film, Contracted Phase 2. Josh, how are you doing today, sir?
Hey, Dave, I am doing great. We just had the premiere at the Bruce Campbell Film Festival. I'm here in Chicago right now. And it was amazing. It was like a ton of people showed up, and like it's a real crowd pleaser of a movie, and then we went to the bar afterwards and got really wasted. So I woke up at noon, and was like, all right, like this is the life. So yeah, man, I'm doing great.
Awesome. Before I wanted to start talking to you about Contracted Phase 2, I just wanted – the first question I always ask everybody is, Josh, is, basically how did you get started in doing film and TV?
Right. I think out of film school, or like even in film school, I kind of looked – I looked up to people like Spike Jonze and Michel Gondry and Mark Romanek. And so, since there's not really a pathway to, like, I want to do feature, everybody wants to do features, I guess, who's a filmmaker. Some people don't, I guess. But for me, I want to do that. And it was like, who are the guys I like and how did they get where they got? And so, medium story long, it's like the music video path was the way for me, because you'd see these guys like Spike Jonze who I didn't realize at the time that he's like the heir to the Spiegel catalog throne, but you see them like doing these music goofy like skate videos and this and that, and then like slowly their work picked up. So for me that was it. It was like starting doing music videos in college, and like it's funny because like one of my it's been like horror and music videos. Like I think my first short film was like a horror film, and then like my senior film was a music video, and it was kind of like nobody knew, like the teachers didn't know how to critique it because everybody else was making these like really dismal like movies about suicide and stuff, and I did like a thing about a band and a guy catching on fire and like starting a new stop, drop, and roll dance. So anyway, so that was it. It started with music videos, and then in school, and then I was working in advertising. I worked a million different jobs, but on the weekends I would be making these, music videos and bugging bands, and because a lot of people ask me like, how did you get into it? And there's actually advice. I ran into this guy Dave Meyers at a party. Dave Meyers has done videos for everyone, like everyone, big 90s director and 2000s director. And I had asked him at the party, I'm like, hey man, how do you break in? And he's like, you just make music videos. And it sounded like the most like lame answer, but I think it's true. Like you just keep making things, and the cream rises to the top, and people see it and want to start hiring you. So yeah, so that's my long answer. But
so when you on the weekends and stuff, would you just approach like local indie bands that maybe didn't sign to a label yet? Would you just approach them and say, hey guys, could I make a music video for you? Yeah,
so at the time I was writing for like a website called Flavor Pill, which Flavor Pill was one of these things. It kind of morphed into more like kind of BuzzFeedy, sort of hipster BuzzFeedy type. I mean, whatever. It morphed into doing more just written content. But at the time, it was like an entertainment calendar. So so my trick is I would just look and see what bands were coming into town. And I mean, this is before, like MP3s, I guess, existed, but I think this was like when bands still sold CDs. So my whole racket was, I would look at who's coming to town. I would email them and say, hey, can you send me a CD? And I'll review it. Maybe we'll write about you. It was just me. It was just a trick to get a bunch of free CDs. And then, typically most of the time when I'd write, I would get, I'd hear back from a PR person, but every now and then it would be like somebody in the band. And if it was somebody like from in the band, that's when I know, like, okay, I can reach out to these guys. And so I would hit them up. Like the first band I did a video for was a band called Irving. And it was just that. I had just like, hey, I love your band. I want to do a video for you. And they're like, okay, what do you want to do? And then I went to a show and like approached them with an idea of like shooting them on green screen. And they have like an animator and an illustrator friend. So we did like this real kind of like, psychedelic kind of Yellow Submarine type thing. But so that's how it went. So I would use these like music contacts and just bug them.
So now, and this is a question I was going to say even for you today, when you were, doing these music videos, do you usually come, when you usually come to meet the band, do the band kind of shoot ideas off of you? Like sort of like if you were going to do for whoever, do they say, hey, listen, Josh, we had this idea where we wanted to do X, Y, and Z. And then you sort of say, well, wait a minute, that's completely different than what I was thinking. I mean, has that ever happened before?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say like typically 98% of the time, I'll get sent a song and it'll be an open brief. It'll be just, hey, go hog wild. Or maybe there'll be some direction from the label, like, we want to do more performance based, or, we did animation in the last one, so stay away from that or something. So it's usually pretty open. But in the case of like the Walk the Moon video, like Nicholas kind of had an outline, and he had like some visual ideas of what he wanted. Which is interesting because I think they went through a couple different directors who kind of didn't get it and they didn't like that process. But for me, for some reason, maybe I'm just out of ideas. I don't know. But it's like I like when somebody comes to me with an idea, that I can kind of go, oh, that part sucks. This part's awesome. And, and I mean, there's some artists who have like horrible ideas, but like Nicholas, has great ideas. And luckily I've worked with a handful of artists who are pretty smart, but for the most part, they don't really come with an idea.
So now, I'm going to say your most famous video is probably Walk the Moon, Shut Up and Dance, because I mean that was a viral phenomenon for a while.
Yeah,
and I mean that was so So when you were shooting that, did the band have any ideas, or did they come to you, or did you get that prompt and it said, hey, Josh, just go hog wild or whatever?
It was a little bit of both. I mean, like I said, like Nicholas had it pretty well outlined. Like because he wanted to take place at a kind of like a high school dance and like some different ideas. So that one was pretty well outlined. I mean, I kind of had to take those. I feel like maybe he had like twice as many ideas than we could fit into it. So part of my job was to sort of like I made like an animatic, which is like if you kind of lay all this, like I drew my own storyboards and like laid it into a timeline and like mapped it out. So yeah, it was definitely a collaboration. And then also just too, like, visually, like he had some ideas, like there were some Nickelodeon shows this Nickelodeon show called Roundhouse that he really liked. And so I was trying to figure out how to achieve that look without it being like, it had a really, really, really horrifically cheesy like VHS look. And I didn't want to, I'd seen a lot of VHS videos. I didn't want to go that route. So, it was just a process of bouncing back and forth. Like Nicholas was very involved. Like, I think halfway through like dealing with it, I was like, like we should let's co-direct this, at least like, for me, like relinquishing some of that credit, just because I felt like it was such a collaboration, which I don't think I've really done that before. But it's interesting because like that aspect of it doesn't really have any bearing on like all the VMA stuff or whatever. Like I would still be in the same quandary if I had directed it fully outright. But yeah, so that one was one of those like a co-directing situations, which is fun. I loved it. I mean, he's an awesome guy. He's super creative.
Yeah, now you mentioned the VMAs, and I just have to ask a really quick question before I get into the VMAs. Have you ever seen? I remember Roundhouse as a, I remember Snick. Did you ever see an episode of Roundhouse before Nicholas mentioned that to you?
I feel like I had, but I'm older than him. Yeah, so when he said it to like I knew the aesthetic, but yeah, it's a really weird show. It's like such a dumb show.
Yeah, the dad with the chair.
Yeah, it's just such a weird, corny, neutered comedy that they have. It's on Nickelodeon, like because when I grew up, it was like You Can't Do That on Television was a show that I watched that had a similar like sketch comedy thing, but it's kids. And I don't know. It's super fucking weird.
Yeah, because you Can't Do That on Television actually starred Alanis Morissette, and when they did Roundhouse, because I remember because it was a Closely Explains It All, Roundhouse, then I think was Ren and Stimpy, then Are You Afraid of the Dark, and it was just it's really, I mean, I liked it as a kid, but looking back, I was like, man, that lineup was odd because, Ren and Stimpy was not a kid's show.
Oh no. Yeah. I have a 3-year-old, and I'm like, excited to start showing him things. I pulled up Ren and Stimpy. I'm like, oh, maybe he'll be into this. And I was like, this is just too weird. For like he's like, Daddy, this is weird. There's some twisted stuff. There was some. I think Nickelodeon was they were onto something. I don't know. I like the Salute Your Shorts or whatever. The Afraid of the Dark show I thought was really cool. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember watching Ren and Stimpy about maybe about a year ago, and I watched it as a kid, and I remember a couple of weird things, and I watched it. I go, oh my god, I shouldn't have been watching this. Like they went to go talk to this guy, Ren and Stimpy, and the dude was actually melting as they were talking to him. Like his ear was falling off, and his eye was coming out, and I go, this is a kid's show.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the episode, they killed them all.
Yeah, John Chris Felucci's amazing. Like his stuff he's the best, man. Did you ever see? He did a thing called it's like something Liquor, like Liquor Joe or something like that. It was like one of the first web cartoons, and it was just the same thing, like just this weird mashup of like 50, just taking the 50s style and just like running it through acid and cocaine or something.
I have not seen that, but I will look for it.
Liquor.
And I'll link that in the show notes too. Anyone who's listening, I will actually link to that because that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the VMAs, and I wanted to ask what was it like, Josh, when you actually got the call that you were nominated for this VMA?
Yeah. So. So it's like I woke up and it was just like it was a bunch of text messages, just dinging, 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 and it was like, some different friends or producers who I guess watch this stuff more closely than I do, and they're like, hey man, like it was just a lot of like, congrats, you did it, what are you talking about? And they're like, check out the VMAs, and I looked and I was super excited. It's funny. I feel like I kind of had given up on that dream of being nominated for that sort of thing. Like I never really pursued it. I think it's because the decision-making process, I think, is so fickle. Like I don't understand why I'm nominated. I mean, I guess it's because like the song is such a huge hit, and I think the video is strong. But like I could probably look through the year and find like 20 videos that I thought are like cooler. But but that's my own like self-deprecating problem. But yeah, I was super psyched. I didn't realize, because I've done a bunch of videos. I probably done like 50 videos, and like I didn't realize how big this song was. Like, because typically what'll happen is people will be like, oh, like what do you do? And like I'll just say like, oh, I just did like MKTO's classic video, and then people will be like, I don't know who that is. I'm like, well, there's like 50 million hits, but okay. But now like this is the one that I could like talk to a cab driver and be like, do you know this song? And they're like, yeah, I totally know that song. So yeah. So anyway, I was super psyched to find out about it. Definitely.
Yeah, that is, "Shut Up and Dance" is I think obviously one of the most popular songs of the year, because I mean I've had friends who they aren't really like into certain types of music, and
Sure.
meaning like they like the heavy metal stuff, or there's something like that, and "Shut Up and Dance" isn't really like their vibe, and even they actually enjoyed it, or they've heard of it in some capacity.
Yeah.
So I agree with you when you talked about the whole taxi cab thing. Like, hey, have you heard this song?
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally get that.
But it's nice because for the longest time, I did it. Like one of the first videos I did was for Sarah Bareilles. It's a song called "Love Song." And I did the video for that song, and that I kind of floated on that for a while. Like probably, I think that might have been like 8 years ago or something. But that was kind of the one that at a party I could be like, well, I did that, and people would know that one. But yeah, so now it's nice to have a new one that for the next 8 years I can kind of float. Like, remember that?
It's funny. Just as a side note, Josh, Sarah Bareilles, she was actually my first Twitter follower ever.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Why is that?
I have no idea. I signed up for Twitter and I forgot about it, and then I received this notification one day, like I think it was like 2008 or 2009.
Yeah.
And I looked it up, and it was like, "You've been followed by Sarah Bareilles." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's great." So I followed her back, and I was like, maybe I should do this. Now Twitter is my favorite social media tool ever.
For sure. Right. Yeah.
It's
yeah,
it's a small world, right?
Yeah. What a creep. What is he doing?
So as you got that phone call from the VMAs, and you got told you're nominated.
Yeah.
Now
first off, there was no phone call. That's part. Like, I think that's part of it. Is that it's just I heard about it through people.
Oh, you didn't get a phone call.
No phone call. No. And so that's what. Yeah. So what happened is basically it's like I just hear about it and I'm like, cool. Okay, it's not for a couple. It's not for a month or whatever. Okay, I got some time. I reach out to like my executive producer, my production company, like, hey, what do I do for this? Because another director, Isaac Rentz, who's amazing. He's at our company. He was nominated like a couple years before. And I reached out to some friends who had gone, and I'm like, what do I do? And they were like, oh, you've got to figure this out on your own. Like, you got to get on this. And basically just those other directors are kind of telling me like, look, no one's really going to help you get these tickets. Like, you've got to be really adamant and dogged, and like they were just sort of like stealing me up for a fight. Like, this is gonna be an uphill battle. I'm like, really? And then I contacted my rep, who's amazing, and she just kind of was like, look, this is just this is how it's been for years, and just kind of like told me that like typically the bands will get free tickets, but the director, unless you're nominated for best director, you're kind of out of luck. It's just like, or not, you're out of luck, but you have to pay for your own tickets. And the tickets range from like, the worst tickets are $400 a piece, and then the best ones are like $850, and then the middle ones are like $650, I think. So yeah, that's what she told me, and she was really understanding about it, but I feel bad for her because she's in a rough spot too, where she's like, yeah, this is just what it is. What do you want to do? Do you want to get some tickets? Do you want me to like put a hold on some tickets? And I was just like, I was just bummed. It's like, that sucks. You know what I mean? To be nominated for a thing, and you feel like, oh, cool. When do I show up? And they're like, oh no, you can't show up unless you give us like at minimum like $1,200, or $800. So. Yeah,
and it's such a big event too, because the VMAs, it's got all the bells and whistles. It's got, it's going to be televised live on MTV, and also it's going to be hosted by Miley Cyrus.
For sure, who I've worked with before, kind of. I did. I did like 4 videos for her brother's band, Metro Station, and so Miley was in one of our videos briefly, but. That's back. That's back when she was a human being and like not a like a weird alien that she is now, like a weird like sex alien or something. I think she's basically what Jared from Subway wants to have sex with, right? Like, I mean, like the legal version of it, but like, she's just like a permanent like 8-year-old boy or something. I don't know. This is probably not. This is gonna get me in trouble, but I just think Miley is a weird. Whatever, more power to her. I think like her music is more interesting now, but yeah. But anyway, y'all want to go see that spectacle. Like, you know, she put the VMAs on the map, you know, with her twerking, like in a way that that nobody's done, you know, before or since. So
they said that 2 years ago Miley did that with Robin
Thicke, yeah.
Yeah, Robin Thicke. Thank you. I was about to say Robin Leach, but I'm like, wait, that's the guy.
Yeah, or Alan Thicke.
Yeah.
I can't look at that guy without thinking about his dad. And like nobody, I keep asking people, like, don't you guys just don't you just think of like the dad from Family Ties? And they're like, what are you talking about, old man? I'm like, all right, never mind. But anyway.
I know what Family Ties is too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and you know, but yeah, I don't know why I was about to say Robin Leach. But you know, when she did that with Robin Thicke, you know, people said like that got people talking about the VMAs again.
Yeah.
And last year they said there wasn't a lot of talk because they said, you know, nothing really outrageous happened. So I think that's why they went back with trying to get her to host the entire thing so that, you know, there'll be the weird set designs and there'll be the eccentric entrances and, you know, performances.
Yeah.
If she does one, I'm not sure, but.
Yeah. I'm looking at like who even hosted last year. I don't know. Yeah, I'm looking here. It was like Beyonce was there and Ariana Grande and I don't know. Whatever. Good for them. Yeah, it wasn't as big like when Miley did her thing, it was like you had to look those clips up, you know what I mean? So this is kind of a big deal, you know? It's like the biggest circus in town.
Yeah, absolutely. And you actually launched a GoFundMe campaign to actually get you there. You know, and you still have time to, you know, by the time this goes up to donate. And the thing is, you actually are over your goal right now.
Yeah. I'm way over.
now, did you expect that? Did you expect to be so over your goal?
Well, no, and yes. I mean, I think part of it is that it's. I mean, part of why I did it. I mean, like obviously, like I did it as the pragmatic thing of like I want to go to this thing, but I don't really have, you know, $1,200 or $1,300, you know, for two tickets for me and my wife. Like, so there's the practical aspect of it, but it's also kind of like, I feel like most people who do a Kickstarter are doing it for like at least in my world, it's like somebody's doing like a film, you know, so they're trying to raise like 30 grand or 50 grand or, you know, there's these like, you know, Zach Braff's trying to raise like $2 million or something. So I thought like, okay, well, if we're trying to raise like at minimum $800, but like average like $1,300, like I could probably do that, you know, just like with $20 donations from some of my friends or whatever. But I didn't expect it to go this far because right now we're like at $2,500, which is just dumb, you know. And I put a thing like when we hit my goal immediately, it was like it kind of died down, and then I was like, well, you know, I do need to like get a suit. So I had like kind of like a little message to kind of milk it a little bit. And then it was like more money came in. Then I was like, oh shit. Okay, thanks guys. We're done, you know. But people keep donating. So like what I put on the site is, you know, there's a charity. Like my son goes to a school called the Blind Children's Center. My kid has like some visual impairment stuff. So that was my thought is like, well, people are still, because people I understand like wanting to give. So my thought was like, okay, well, maybe don't give to me. Maybe you could give to the organization or whatever, you know, or something like that. So if people do want to donate, they could definitely like go to my GoFundMe, but like look at the Blind Children's Center, you know, maybe give $20 to them because you could use it much more than I could. But yeah.
I mean, and that's very cool of you, Josh. And I will also link to that in the show notes. That charity
Sure.
that you are recommending.
Yeah.
Because I think that's awesome. Because again, like you said, you raised more than you thought you were going to. I think you were aiming for 800. You raised 2,500.
Yeah.
Which is I mean that's awesome. Because now you've paid for your ticket. So now were you able to still like purchase a ticket from the VMAs, or do they say like, or now do they throw another wrench and being like, oh sorry Josh, it's sold out, you can't come?
Right. I haven't paid for them yet because they're gonna announce where to buy them. Again, it's this weird Byzantine thing, but I do have like my two like $650 tickets like on hold. So I think I'm good to go. I mean, I'm kind of interested to see how things go, because for any listeners who don't know, like I did the GoFundMe, and then someone from the Daily Beast interviewed me, and then that just kind of set a wildfire where then like suddenly like the AV Club was writing about it, and then Mashable and like probably BuzzFeed and I just got a Google alert from like NME, the music magazine in UK. They wrote a thing, and so I'm curious what MTV's reaction is going to be, because I haven't heard anything from them yet. So it's very strange. And what's weird too is this weird game of telephone where you just start to see so based off of one interview, other people write these stories that are just kind of taking the same like talking points, but then rewording them. But then somebody will see that interview or that write up, and they'll reword things, and there's certain things just start getting twisted or like tweaked. It's weird. Like I'm ready for some sort of backlash to happen. Like it's going to happen, because all I really wanted to do, like the whole idea was just like, oh shit, I want to go to this thing. How do I pay for it? You know what I mean? And now it's become that I'm like the champion of like directors' rights, and like all these people are like, you started a movement, like, I mean, I'm not saying that I don't want to start a movement. Like I am that guy, but it's funny that happened with this, that was innocuous enough, I wasn't like trying to raise money to like build a effigy of Miley Cyrus or something, like I wasn't trying to do some big statement. It was just like, I want to go to the party too. I like an open bar as much as the next guy.
I don't think there's going to be a backlash, Josh, because I personally, the way I've seen, if there's ever going to be a backlash, it happens immediately. Like for Zach Braff, that was an immediate backlash. And for a couple other things, it was an immediate backlash. So if it hasn't happened yet, honestly, I have friends who work at Indiegogo, who work at Kickstarter, and usually when a backlash happens, it happens immediately. So I think you're in the clear.
Yeah. Okay, good. That's the thing too. It's like, because I was talking with my wife, I'm like, oh shit, like we've reached our goal. What do we do? And it's just a human. I don't know. Like, I probably shouldn't even be talking about it, but it's like you're like, well, let's see how far this goes. Like maybe this will become a potato salad thing, But again, it's like, hopefully maybe we can like, give some money to our kids' school, or another thing too is that like, so with this movie Contracted too, like I'm in Chicago right now for this film festival, and like I guess as I'm getting more quote unquote successful, I'm learning about the new added costs of doing business. So it's like, like this is such an indie movie, like there's no, and it's an indie festival, the Bruce Campbell Film Festival, like they weren't really able to fly me out, so I had to use my points, and I'm like sleeping on a friend's couch, and my movie's playing in London, and I'm not really going to be able to go, but it's also playing at Sitges, or like Sitges, Sitges or whatever, in Spain, and my producers were able to get me lodging there, but I have to fly, and I found like a $700 ticket to Spain. So I might, like, if there's money left over, like I might use it for that, because I feel like I hope the people who donate would be cool with that, because I feel like it's a similar thing where it's like, I'm being honored for this other film I made, but I wouldn't really be able to go and support it, if I didn't have their financial support, So I hope people are cool with that.
Well, you brought up Contracted, phase 2. Could you give us a little synopsis of the movie?
Sure. Yeah. Contracted, phase, Just kidding. It's a very serious title. It's a sequel to, there's a movie called Contracted, written and directed by Eric England, and it's currently on Netflix right now. I think that's where a lot of people discovered it. And so the first Contracted film, it's a real indie drama with some body horror. Basically, a girl has a sexual encounter that, gives her this STD that, like, her body's falling apart. And I'll spoil the first movie for you. She becomes a zombie at the end of the movie. And so over the course of the movie, she sleeps with a guy. And our movie is about that guy. And so in our movie now, the clock starts ticking where his body's starting to fall apart. But he's trying to unravel this mystery of, like, where did this virus come from? Now the virus is spreading, like other cases are starting to happen, and, things are getting out of control. So anyway, it's funny because the first movie I feel like is a pretty serious indie movie, and ours, it's still very indie, but ours is just kind of balls to the wall, like ridiculous. I think it's a pretty crazy. It's a crazy movie. It was so much fun to see with an audience because it's like, there's just a lot of these gruesome, gross out moments that it's just so delicious to to just watch the movie kind of play the audience. Where it's just a lot of like no, screams and stuff. So it was a blast, yeah. And it comes out September 4th on VOD, and yeah. So definitely, like, if any of you guys are into horror and stuff like that, like, check it out. I think it's a real fun movie. I feel like this is one of those movies that, like, that I feel like, they'll pick up clips on YouTube and, like, you'll use it to inflict it on your friends, because there's just a bunch of gross things that happen. And those are always my favorite movies. Like, I don't know if you ever saw, like, are you into horror at all, or?
Yeah, I'm into all kinds of movies.
Yeah, or like Fulci's movie Zombie. Oh yeah. There's like a scene where, like, there's like a shark versus zombie, which is amazing. Or there's like this part where this girl gets her head put onto a piece of wood or whatever, like, and it just goes into her eye. Like, it's not a great Zombie. I don't think is a great movie, but, like, it has those things in it. And so I don't know if Contracted 2 is a quote unquote great movie, in the Citizen Kane fashion, but I think it's full of a ton of fun, crazy shit that people are going to love, I think. So that's the thing, is, like, I love, like, last night I got so hooked on it, man. Like, just hooked on that feeling of watching a movie with an audience. It's just such a blast to feel like the conductor of that experience. So that's the thing, is, like, I've made these music videos, and, I think we're at like 80 million views with Walk the Moon, Shut Up and Dance, or whatever. I probably have had hundreds of millions of views of my things, but it's in solitary. It's like people on their phone or at home. So to be able to have that communal experience, especially with something that's just so visceral, it's just a blast. So much fun.
Yeah, I was actually just reading an article, Josh, by Planet Money, and it said that horror is actually the best return on investment for both independent film producers and for Hollywood as well. Yeah,
absolutely. And then it's crazy because it's still considered. I was talking with Tom Holland, the guy who directed Child's Play and Fright Night. He's just like a classic director. I was talking with him, and he was like, yeah, he's like, it's always been that way, that horror is considered the redheaded stepchild, and, they're embarrassed all the way to the bank as they keep cashing all their checks, And I just think it's lame, because I think it's like people love these movies. And you don't have romantic comedy festivals, you know what I mean? They don't have music, even like music video festivals where people get together and watch, I mean, I guess they sort of do have screenings, but it's like people really get into horror in a way that is just, it's thrilling, even like, it's even like, like Star Trek, is maybe like the next biggest thing people geek out about, I guess. But I feel like horror is even bigger than that. I adore and I just adore the horror community that I've been able to be a part of. Like in the festival, I remember these guys from 5 Second Films who did a movie called Dude Bro Party Massacre Part 3. That is just amazing. And there's another movie called Tales of Halloween that's like an anthology film, like a Halloween. Like there's 10 different directors that got together and made 10 little shorts that all kind of weave together. And it's a scene that I don't know. Yeah, there's just so much love in it. I guess it's interesting because I kind of dance between the two worlds. Like I'm in the music video world, and I have a bunch of friends in that world who are all great, and we'll share. Use this DP is amazing, or this production designer. Or, I found this cool location you should use. So that's been fun, and then to be able to take some of those things and then translate them into the horror world has been fun too. So, yeah, I'm just rambling at this point, but I love it. I love horror. I love horror movies so much.
Yeah, I mean, the horror community is definitely also the most loyal too. Because you go to horror movie conventions, and I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, people just get, people getting things tattooed, because that's what Tom Holland was saying. He's like, I saw a girl with a Chucky tattoo all the way up her leg, and you don't get that from, I don't know, like any other kind of movie. Nobody has like a Sandra Bullock tattoo, or maybe they do. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's you always see pictures of like Jason Voorhees, Candyman, Michael Myers, but you don't see pictures of like Chuck Norris tattooed on someone's chest or anything.
Exactly. Speaking of another, my friend Todd Strauss-Schulson has a movie called The Final Girls that I just want to help promote because I think it's the best movie I've seen this year. It's like so. I think it might get a pretty broad release, so maybe people will know about it. But it's kind of like a slasher. It's kind of like Last Action Hero, but with where these kids kind of fall into a slasher movie. But it ends up having a real emotional core to it. It's so funny. It's so well done. It's almost as good as Contracted Phase 2. So,
Josh, I will link to both those in the show notes as well.
Sure,
But it's really cool. I will check. I wrote a note to myself too to check that movie out. The Final Girls.
Oh my gosh! Look at the trailer. The trailer will blow you. I think it'll blow you away. Like I actually just watched my friend Todd posted a reaction video. Some guy watching the trailer. And it's so fun just watching this guy's face, as the different things happen in the trailer. So that's just like the fun thrill of getting to make these kind of movies is just like, knowing you've got the audience in the palm of your hand and you're going to take them for a ride and like they're going to love you or they're going to hate you. That's what you want. So.
Exactly. That's what Sig Haig once said. He goes, if after they see a movie, they should love it or hate it. It should never be in between. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what Contracted Phase 2. It's like you're not gonna walk out of there not knowing how you feel about the movie. You're either gonna be like, "Damn, that was great," or like, "Oh, what's wrong with these people?" Both of which are acceptable.
Josh, I actually had a fan question come in. If you don't mind, I think we have time for one fan question. Basically, the question is, Josh, do you have any tips for directing actors in music videos?
I don't know. Well, I mean, they're typically not good. Nor do they need to be really. I don't know. Well, I mean, that's not necessarily true. Like this, but I think what happens is you just end up with a lot of people. Like it depends on the video, but like you're not working with the highest caliber of actor because you don't have the most money. So I don't know. It's been a weird because I guess I studied theater like as an actor like in college. So I feel like I have a leg up on. I think you just have to be kind of clear about what you want. And be friendly about it, and Yeah, and don't be afraid to touch them. I think that was the thing that I like had a hard time like coming to was like if you just need to move someone an inch, like I will just like, oh, grab their shoulder and like, okay, just move them where I need to move them. It's like a weird answer, but yeah, don't be afraid to just touch people and move them around like the props they are. So I don't know. Yeah.
So, Josh, in closing, is there anything you want to say, sort of profound on this conversation?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how, like, because again, like this whole game of telephone, I feel like has blown the story, if not out of proportion. I just feel like it's kind of blown it around. And I guess I want to say, like, as far as like, like I like MTV. Like I think maybe I'd made some jokes about. Like obviously, like MTV doesn't really play music videos anymore, and people kind of like like you see that online, like, oh, today I learned the VMAs still exist, or today I learned MTV, big shocker, MTV doesn't care about music or whatever, and it's like that's just how things evolve. Like I'm okay, I think for a while I was bummed out about that, but it's like music videos found a better place. That's called YouTube, and it's called. More people are watching videos on YouTube than ever before. It's fine. I think for a long time when MTV kind of shut down and started doing like, The Real World and Jersey Shore, I think what happened. I think a lot of people would, I'd be like, oh, I do music videos, and they're like, oh, do they still show those anymore? I think now people get it, kind of. But anyway, so it's like, I think people think that I'm thumbing my nose at MTV, and like, again, like I'm not really, like I just wanted to go to the thing. You know what I mean? Like I want MTV I want to like everybody, and I don't think that MTV is. It's not like there's one guy called MTV who's just like, I fucking hate directors. It's a giant corporation. Like I think, I don't know why it costs that much money. Like it's really ridiculous that it would cost that much money for tickets. Like, but that's just me. I think I started hearing like, oh, well, the Independent Spirit Awards tickets cost like $1,000, and the Emmys cost this much, and that it's just all kind of like mind blowing to me. It's very strange. But maybe that's just how it works. Maybe that's the price of business, and maybe I'm just not used to that. But the thing is, it's just. For me, it's like I think maybe there's a disconnect between the way they're doing business and the way and how directors are treated and how directors get paid. Because ultimately, I think that's kind of what is striking a chord. Is that I think directors are out here, and not unlike podcasters. Like I don't really know your show that well, and I don't know like if you have a day job. I'm assuming you probably do. Like. I think we all kind of have to, we're all kind of in a hustle. It's like, it's not like the days where there's, 8 music video directors and they're all pulling in $1 million a year. Now there's 8,000 music video directors and we're all scrambling for the pieces. And the good news of that is that it allowed me the opportunity to just be a kid in Colorado who's like, I'm scrappy. I want to work hard. I want to make things. And I was able to make things. And now like I don't make a great living, but I make a living making these things, and then commercials. And then now this film, and so I'm incredibly grateful to MTV. I guess I'm just rambling, but I'm just trying to like, just barf out all the thoughts I've had, I'm incredibly thankful to MTV for existing. I'm so happy that they have these award shows still. I feel like even though they aren't really the place where people watch videos, like they're still the biggest name in music videos. Like if they made a YouTube video awards, maybe in 20 years it would have the same gravity that the VMAs has, but it doesn't, because it's a new thing. So anyway, I think because people are kind of like, I think they kind of like to like write, I feel like I've seen like a lot of hashtags of like, yeah, fuck the man or whatever. And it's like, I'm not about that necessarily. I just think that directors, I think what's interesting about this story is it's shining a light on the fact that like, we're not rolling around in money here. We're all struggling. We're all, I would go ahead and say, I don't know if it's an FU, but I would go ahead and say like that there is still a disconnect between like how the directors are treated and then how much money that the artists make and how much money that, is still going around. They're not poor. And I'm not saying that Walk the Moon should have paid for our tickets, but it's kind of like, I feel like there might be this attitude of like, oh, there's no money anymore in music. And it's like, that's bullshit. Like, there's still tons of money. Like, you guys are just doing fine. MTV is doing fine. RCA is doing, Columbia is doing fine. Like, they're having to change up their game, but like, ultimately they're all owned by the same, like 3 companies anyway. And they're all doing fine. So it would be nice. It'd be nice to live in a world in which content creators like myself and other directors, could kind of be treated with more respect and to make more money, because that's part of it too. Is that I don't know. I could talk about this forever, but I think what it is like, I think because being an artist is fun and it's something that I would be doing anyway, I feel like there's this like people take advantage of that, which is why you have managers and agents, because they're the ones who are like, you need to protect, the artist. So I don't know. I'm just going around in circles, but I love I love MTV. I love RCA. I love Walk the Moon. I'm very happy to be nominated, and I'm glad that I'm going to go to these things and watch watch Hoser win and not us, because I'm sure that's going to happen. Because that guy and his man bun are fucking impenetrable. He's a force to be reckoned with. I can't get that song, like that Take Me to Church. Like, that's like, if you want to inflict a song onto like it's something that's even worse than like showing them my movie, you just have to sneak up behind them and then like whisper "Take Me to Church," and then it'll be stuck in their head for the rest of the week. So yeah, I don't know.
You never know, Josh. You never know. I had Alex De Laris on here, and we were talking about the Academy Awards, and he ended up winning for Best Picture with Birdman.
Oh, good. Yeah, I hope we win. That's what's so weird is it's like awards are so like it's so fickle. I mean, I guess these ones are like it's voter generated, so. My hope is that Walk the Moon fans are a little bit more web savvy, and that like Take Me to Church fans are more like, I don't know, like sorority girls who are like too busy like getting suntans or something. I don't know. But yeah, we'll see.
All right.
Yeah.
Very cool, Josh, and I wish you the best of luck, because the VMAs are next Sunday, August the 30th. I will look for you in the crowd, sir.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Dave.
So, Josh, where do people find you at online?
Yeah, I have a website, joshforbes.com. That's where you can see my videos and short films and stuff. I'm on Twitter I think it's at bestjoshforbes. Because there's a lot of Josh Forbes in this world, but let's be honest, I'm definitely the best. And then I think on Instagram is either Best Josh Forbes or The Best Josh Forbes. But yeah, man. I hope I didn't put my foot too far into my mouth. I'm just a hardworking guy. I just want to go to these award shows. I don't want to rattle the cage too much. It's all love all around. I just think. I just want to go to the party too.
And I completely understand, Josh, and and I think the way you feel is the same way a lot of content creators feel, and as as things evolve in all industries, they sort of say that the music industry is always the first one to get hit on anything that's disruptive, because anything that happens to them ends up happening to the film industry, and then it ends up happening to the TV industry. So I think as we sort of evolve, we're going to start seeing where things go. I think crowdfunding is absolutely a pinnacle for independent artists like ourselves. I also think things like Patreon are going to start becoming a lot bigger too, as well.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing that I realized too, is like was just how, I mean, obviously a lot of people who donate are just my friends and stuff, but the power of that is very interesting because I'm hoping that that's kind of how things go. You know, maybe there's some way to like, you know, to buy it. You know, I would definitely buy a ticket to the next Quentin Tarantino movie, like in order for him to get to make another, or maybe not, you know, or maybe like Stuart Gordon is a guy who tried crowdfunding and it didn't work. But I feel like there's enough people who love him that, you know, I think it would be amazing. It'd be amazing if you could just buy a ticket to the movie, you know, before it comes out, and then that would allow them to make the movie, you know. But I'm impressed at sort of the power of crowdfunding and the power of the internet. You know, I think that's what's fun about all this thing.
Definitely, and I think crowdfunding is especially when things start going into you'll be able to have three options. You can have donation based, you could be a charity, or you could be have equity crowdfunding, where, you know, if you were to make a movie and you put up, say, hey, listen, each share is $1,000, I could come in and go through, you know, one of these sites and say, okay, I'm going to put in my $1,000. I now have a share of the movie legally for future revenue, and I think once that happens, I think, you know, that's going to be anybody who doesn't do that model is going to be like, what the hell? Why isn't this guy, you know what I mean, Josh? Like, those people are saying, you know, why isn't that guy just crowdfunding this? Or, you know, entertainment lawyers are going to say, why don't you just put it on here? It's out in the open. It's in the public. There's no backroom deals anymore. I mean, I'm sure that'll exist somehow, but you know what I mean? So,
yeah. If there was a way to do that, I mean, I think that would be I would participate on both sides of that, you know. I wonder how you do that without those people taking creative control, or if it's just saying like, maybe it's just it's like, okay, I'll buy a share for $1,000, and if the share, whatever, if the stock, I don't know how stocks work, but if the movie does well, then I get my $1,000 back, you know, and maybe I make some profit off it.
Yeah,
I think that'd be amazing. I think that'd be so cool.
Yeah, that's going to be coming into probably next year. You're going to start seeing that more and more, especially because I know Indiegogo is going to go that route. So they're going to have the three options. Kickstarter is still going to be the same, and that's fine. That's a great way to differentiate the two, because everyone always says, what's the difference between the two, of Indiegogo or Kickstarter? And I always go in my whole spiel. But honestly, that is going to be, you know, something. And I'm sure they're going to say in the fine print of all that, you know, if the artist doesn't want any, you know, creative, you know, sort of like any creative suggestions, they're going to list it right on the campaign. Like, look, we appreciate it, but, you know, if, you know, let's just say Zach Braff or Kevin Smith put up their next movie on you know, as for equity crowdfunding, they're probably going to say, you know, we appreciate, you know, the support, but we already have a script locked down, and et cetera, which is a nice way of saying we don't want to hear your opinion. Which
is that weird. That's the weird hook of everything, where, to get a movie made, there's always some weird twist. You know what I mean? It's like, not to go into like my experience with my movie, but like you'll just hear about like, oh yeah, you gotta put my daughter in the movie. You know what I mean? Like, oh, she has to play this character, and you're like, really? Like, yeah, and whatever, you know, no water in the movie. No one should be drinking water, because I don't know, whatever. Just like a crazy demand where you're like, seriously?
I've heard, you know, in my experiences too, I've seen stuff like that where it's like some weird, like, you're like, well, what is this person talking about? Like, why is it, you know, why do they need to have this? Or, you know, why do we need to have all these extra stunt people? Oh, because they're friends of yours. Got it. You know, it's kind of like you're trying to cut down on that, and that's why when I see crowdfunding perks, and one of them is always like, you could spend a day on set, I'm always like, I would never. I mean, maybe if I was never on a set before, but like, I don't myself, like, I would never. I don't think there's a person I know of who I would be like, I want to spend a day on that set. You know,
right? It's exciting for about 45 seconds, and then you're like, you know, you've eaten 3 red vines, and you're like, I got it, and you leave, you know.
Exactly, because a lot of people don't understand of the stopping and starting, the resetting, you know, and you know, the repetitiveness of shooting this stuff, and they don't understand mind about that. And then that's why I think a lot of the times when I see that perk, I'm always like, to people, whoever, if they wanted to ask me what my opinion is on their campaign before they launch it, I'm always like, take that perk out, because you don't want I said the less people on set the better.
Sure.
So in my opinion, because I'm always like, I don't need to have someone's daughter or boyfriend show up and then they start trying I mean, when I made a student film, I had this guy, he brought his girlfriend and she proceeded to try to tell the DP had to send up her I set the camera, and he's like, look, please just get away from me. He didn't have a lot of tact. He was just like, leave, don't come near me. So we ended up I was like, can you just please ask her to go home? And then the guy was like, oh, I don't know, it was big, so but so for all the filmmakers out there, again, I'm not a big fan, and I can tell Josh not a big fan of the crowdfunding perk of spend a day on set.
That is funny. But there is a weird, being here in Chicago at this festival, there's the film festival, and then there's like a Comic-Con aspect. Like this one has a lot of like celebrity appearances, and these guys, like Nathan Fillion charges like $100 just to take a picture with him, and $100 for an autograph, and the lines around the block, and it's like, I guess living in LA, like, not that there's like celebrities just like falling from the sky, but like it's not that shocking to just be at to be at Starbucks and see some guy that you're like, wait, did I go to school with him? Like, oh no, he's Arrow on the CW or whatever. Like, oh, okay. But if you're not, I feel like, living in LA, you kind of get jaded to it, and I think it could be an exciting perk for someone, I mean, I think it would be exciting for me to like show up in the back of a kitchen and like watch somebody make a pizza or something. I think that'd be fun, like, even though I'm sure it's boring to the pizza guy.
See, I'm the type of guy, Josh, I want to just show up and see the pizza when it's ready, piping hot. Yeah. I can just devour it in 5 seconds.
Eating the pizza is going to be infinitely more interesting than watching a guy put pepperonis on it. So.
There's not even a comparison. But that, that's just food for thought. I mean, if anybody out there does still want to make that a perk, I would just explain that whoever's going to come to set beforehand, just be like, look, there's a lot of downtime. So bring a book, because basically at that point you're like an extra, and you're like the shittiest PA. You're just like sitting around like, hey, go grab me some coffee or something. So tell me about. So I'm not that familiar with your show. Like, tell me about like what's the gist of it, or like who, like, is it interviews, or is it you, or like how does the show work? I'm definitely gonna like dive into it after this. But oh, cool, thank you. It's every episode's an interview. I interview somebody new every week.
Cool, that's great.
Yeah, so I've had Alex Denlaris on, who did Birdman. He was a writer in Birdman. I've had Bill Plimpton on, who's a big animator. Yeah. I've had Richard R.B. Budo from Stage 32, which is a big film network and crowd site. I've had there's other people I know who are awesome, and I'm forgetting a lot of them. But your episode number 69. So
there we go.
Yeah. So. I'm slowly progressing to that magical number of 100, and I'm trying to. I don't want to say who, but I'm in the talks right now to have somebody who would be the biggest quote unquote guest I've ever had on the show.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, I also do a podcast called Mondo Movie 2. It's the unlicensed across the pond sequel to a British podcast called Mondo Movie. I love their podcast, so I was like, I'm going to make a sequel to your podcast. I hope you're okay with that. But I think we've done like maybe 10 episodes. Like, it's very sporadic. We just talk about it's my friend Charles and I. Who we're working on a script. He would punch me if I didn't mention this. We're doing a movie that he wrote. We're trying to get it off the ground. It's called Destroy All Neighbors. But anyway, we do a podcast too. Yeah, Mondo Movie 2. If you're into this sort of goopy, gross, monsters and stuff, come check us out there.
I will link to that too, Josh, in the show notes. I will find that link. No problem. And best of luck on your script, Destroy All Neighbors.
Yeah, it's fun. It's about a guy. So Charlie and I both have a neighbor that we fucking like hate, that we want to murder, basically. And we were going back and forth about like what, like, because I just sit up at night, like, because this neighbor of mine is so loud, and he's like always swearing and just, he's just crazy. So I just was telling him how much I fantasize about murdering my neighbor, and he's like, I do the same thing. And then I was like, what if we made a movie about that guy who actually does murder his neighbor, and like what happens? And so in the movie, like, he murders his neighbor, but then the neighbor's head comes back and starts criticizing how he's like disposing of the body, and then it goes from there. But it's pretty fun. But yeah, so we're trying to find a producer for that and trying to get, I'm hoping that'll be the next thing. So we'll see.
Yeah, and you can always try go the crowdfunding route too. There's a movie called I forget the name of it. It's the one about the Nazis on the moon.
Yeah.
I forget the name of it. But they actually just they launched a crowdfunding campaign just to do script development, and they raised like 10 or 20 grand just to get the script off the ground.
That's great.
I mean, it can be done. Granted, for the second one they had a built-in fan base, but I mean, I think more people are also getting used to the idea of multiple crowdfunding campaigns for the same goal. Like, this is phase 1, this is phase 2, and then phase 3 will be, like phase 1 is pre, phase 2 is to get raise funds for production, and phase 3 is for funds for post-production. So I think people are starting to get used to that, which is a whole strategy you have to sort of plan out. But people who listen to the show, I could go on and on about crowdfunding. Because I've had so many people on about crowdfunding.
It's interesting. My friend Ryan Spindell, who's an amazing director, he crowdfunded. I think he got around at least 30 grand for. He was putting together an anthology movie called The Mortuary Collection, and so they actually shot the first episode of that, or whatever. I think it's like 4 films within a film, and they filmed that, and they've been winning some awards with their movie's called The Babysitter. But I can't wait for people to see because it's so awesome. But it was similar, like, they did the Kickstarter route, and it's interesting too. I guess it kind of makes you have to think like a producer and kind of have to hook into a niche and hook into find something that's big and visual that people can get into. I mean, like Kung Fury is a great example, where it's like you see their little teaser and you're like, yeah, I need to keep watching this. Like, take my money now and make more, and please put David Hasselhoff in it.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely, sort of catching lightning in a bottle. And I don't know what the guy's plan is for the rest of it, but I mean, honestly, I'm sure whatever he has next is probably going to get crowdfunded in 5 seconds, because he'll be all he has to say is, "Hi, I'm the Kung Fury guy," and they're like, "Oh, there you go."
Well, I randomly – so I went to David Hasselhoff's house to film something for this band called Simple Plan. My friend Mark Staubach was doing a video for them in Canada. It was like Baywatch kind of parody. I hope it's okay that I'm telling you about this. And then I went to David Hasselhoff's house to shoot his portion. So my friend was in Canada doing the video, and then I just shot Hasselhoff. And he was mentioning the Kung Fury guy, and I guess it sounded like right before he came over to meet up with David about something, like he had met up with Spielberg. So it sounds like they're going to be doing okay, those kooky Swedes. I think they're Swedish, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but what is interesting too, I can talk about this stuff forever, but like, I feel like for something really gonzo, like Nazi space sharks or whatever, I feel like you can get people excited, but like, I feel like what will be more difficult is the quiet film. I think that's just in general what we're kind of losing out on is like that sort of film that doesn't like doesn't have that crazy high concept, but is still like important. Like I feel like the kind of movies that were made in the 70s, like a Harold and Maude, like that would be hard to really get people excited. Like, hey, it's about a kid who hangs out with an old lady, and it's going to be sad. And there's some, it's kind of gross, and it's whatever. Like, I don't know how you'd get a Harold and Maude made today.
Yeah, and that's very true. And, that's some of the things that some of my friends who are big in crowdfunding were talking about was that, if you did make these movies that are more character driven, it can be done, but it has to be there has to be a lot of strategy, a lot of your pre-launch has to be solid. You have to make sure that, you've built your relationships up. Because there is a fan base for those movies. They just have to know about it. Because like the AV Club or BuzzFeed, they need something sexy to post. So they're not going to, when they see Nazis on the moon, there's some, writer who's like, he instantly like, oh my God, well, this is my next, this is my story for the next week or whatever. It's just talking about this. And, and that's, obviously there's other things that I've seen too, where I'm like, what the hell, some of these campaigns, but it can be done. But again, you just sort of plan it out right.
And I guess part of it too is being part of a community, like whether it's like Joe Swanberg's whole kind of mumblecore world, or that, like it's almost like liking a kind of music where it's like, oh, like I'm into this type of, I don't know, like backpack hip hop. So if you like this guy, you'll like this guy, and you kind of learn about it through that way, In the same way with like these indie horror movies, it's like, I think you kind of have to, group together and really like kind of combine forces so that, you're bigger than the sum of your parts or something. So it's like, oh, if you like a Paul Solet movie, you might like a Josh Forbes movie or something like that.
Yeah, I agree with you entirely. Because that's something I try to do too, is try to be a networker and sort of. So if I can ever point somebody in the right direction, I usually try to do that. The part where it stops for me is when people spam me on like hell on Twitter. Like there's no introduction. They just immediately start in their sales pitch.
Ugh, yeah.
And I'm like, why would I fund your movie? Why would I, do anything? I don't even know your name. You didn't even say like, hi, Dave. It just starts off with, hey, here's our movie. I'm like, Jesus, oh yeah, nice to meet you too. All right. Because it's just, and I say the same thing. Would you go up to somebody at like a bar and immediately go right into your sales pitch? Like, if I met you in person, where you guys say, hi, Josh, it's very nice to meet you. I'm Dave. Or would I just say, hey, look at my new thing. It's, this and that.
Right.
Like, what the hell? It's like,
Exactly.
It's just, and I think, once, again, this starts to evolve, I think people start to understand. Normally what happens in that case is they say like, oh, crowdfunding doesn't work, and they're all, they hate it, and they start saying all these bad things about it. But in reality, it's because they didn't take the time to actually build something. They just wanted to, I have an idea on a Friday, and on that Sunday, I'm launching a crowdfunding campaign for it.
Right.
When you should be taking a lot more time and, building it up and just, okay, is this in a concept? Has this been done before? Like I said, Josh, I can go all day about this stuff.
Yeah, and I had to be strategic about that too with this GoFundMe thing, like when I first heard about the price of the tickets, I was like, oh, I told my like 9-year-old niece, I was like, oh, I should do a Kickstarter, and she's like, what is it? And I explained it to her. She's like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, why would anybody give you money? And I'm like, you're right. Like, it is dumb, but like, people are wired weird. But I knew that like if I was going to do it, I would have to do a video and have it be, have it be entertaining enough that it would kind of like get the idea across. And that's what took me the longest to work up the courage to do it, because I was like, man, as a filmmaker, you want to do something right. So then I was kind of like, all right, fuck it, I'll just set up my camera and just do it, but I added some jokes in there that I hope people thought were funny. I don't know, but so one other movie I wanted to shout out about is a movie called Some Kind of Hate by Adam Egypt Mortimer. It's a movie that I directed second unit on. I just watched a screening of it yesterday, and it's super good, and I think people should go see it. So I think I pimped out all my friends now.
Josh, I will link. I promise I'm going to link to all those movies in the show notes, and I also made notes to go check them out myself.
Yeah.
Because I always love seeing movies, and especially like to meet other independent filmmakers as well. Like you said, I feel that the collaboration, and I don't even mean like hey, could you come help me on set? Like oftentimes for some filmmakers, I've helped them out. I've helped them get locations. I've helped them get insurance. I've helped them get vehicles. The best thing I've ever helped, I think in my opinion, I've ever helped somebody get, I helped them get an actual tank.
Really? How did that? How?
I have a guy who.
You got a guy?
Yeah, I got a guy who deals in tanks.
Sure.
He's all licensed and bonded. It's all nice and legal. And there's a special way you have to transport this tank, and there's a special way you have to, everything. There's gasoline for because it has to be taken on a truck bed, on one of those big heavy duty trucks, and they pull it up onto the flatbed. They have to strap it down, and then they have to take it, and there's special permits to go from state to state. But he has all those, and then and then you have to pay for the operator, and then you have to pay for the fuel because he said the thing eats fuel like you wouldn't believe because it's a tank. And then so I helped facilitate this deal for them getting a tank.
How much does that cost? If I want a tank, if I want to roll up at the VMAs in a tank, what do I?
To roll up at a VMAs? I mean, because it's in California.
I'm kidding, but I'm just curious, like what the rate is for that.
For them, it was they didn't go too far away. I think it was actually almost a state over from where the tank actually was. I think the tank was in New Jersey, or it was either in Pennsylvania going to Jersey or Jersey going to PA.
It sounds like I feel like Jersey has a lot of tanks. I don't know why. I just feel like that's a place where you would not be surprised at, like, oh, that's a tank. I don't know.
Yeah, because what he does is he has it on his private compound. So he's also my guy for like if you need an exotic car, you would call him. So if you've ever seen the movie, it's not Dead Man Down. It's the other one with Jamie Foxx and Gerard Butler.
Olympus Has Fallen or something like that.
No, it's another one. I forget the name of it. My brain is mush today. But
sure.
there actually is there's a car. There's I think it's a Rolls Royce or a Cadillac. He actually in the movie there's this Cadillac that they needed. Well, the guy ended up helping them get this Cadillac because they needed a certain kind. And the guy, that Cadillac you see in the movie, that he's the head of the Cadillac Club of Philadelphia. So he has this pristine Cadillac, and they were just like, all right, we're gonna put a cloth over it, and Jamie Foxx rips it off, and he finds there's a secret tunnel underneath this Cadillac, which is how Gerard Butler got out. So that's that whole story, and it was just it's very interesting. Like this guy's got a ton of stories about getting vehicles here and there, and it's just a really, really cool guy. If you had a website or any way to contact him, I would give it out right now. But I just have his phone number.
We'll take that off the air. But I need a tank guy. I don't know why, but I need
if you need me to help you, I will get him for you because all I have is a phone number, and obviously I don't want to give that out on the podcast.
For sure, yeah.
But
that's fine, yeah.
But yeah, he's a hell of a guy too. He's a former Marine, really nice guy, and he can as the old the project management saying, if with enough time and money we can do anything, and that's what he does with that's what he says with the cars. If with enough time and money he can get anything, any type of car you need. He got this old ice cream truck for this one production. He couldn't find it, and one day he was driving down the road, and this old ice cream truck just comes down the road, and he's like, "That's exactly what I've been looking for." And he actually ended up tailing them for a couple of miles, just waiting for them to stop. I'm sure the guy probably saw this his car tailing. It's like, oh god, I better not pull over. I might get robbed here. But
right.
the guy ended up stopping for gas, and he pulled out. He's like, hey buddy, I need to talk to you about renting your truck. But
that's amazing.
But yeah, Josh, I know you. I've taken up over an hour of your time. I know you have stuff to do.
I got important stuff.
No, I don't want to keep talking your ear off.
For sure.
So
no, I've totally enjoyed this. This has been a blast. I've done a few podcasts. Like obviously, I do my own or whatever. But it's just I really appreciate you reaching out to me because you were like, this is the first podcast I've done since all the hullabaloo. So it's great.
Oh, thank you for coming on. Everyone, you can find me at davebullis.com. Twitter, it's at Dave_Bullis. And I'm still talking to Twitter about getting that username at Bullis. Some guy is sitting on my name, Josh, and I'm trying to get it back. I don't know. Yes.
How does that work? Yeah, I guess you just got to...
I filed a complaint before, and they did absolutely nothing. Some guy who has no name like of Bullis, it has my username of at Bullis, which I wanted from the beginning, and he's like this retired. I actually was like looking up who this guy is. He's a retired guy in New York, and he has on Twitter at Bullis, and I'm like, your name is not. It's something. I'm not going to give his name out, but it's like I said he has nothing to do with my name, and he had never sent a tweet out, and I'm like, I should, I don't understand why he has it, but hopefully everyone, I will get that sooner or later, but everyone, I want to say thank you very much for listening, and if you can, everyone, please subscribe and just like the podcast on iTunes. I would really appreciate that. Again, because my subscribers actually get this about a day or two earlier than everybody else. And again, everyone, check out. Next Sunday, we're going to see Josh Forbes at the VMAs. And Josh, you'll have to wave to us while you're in the crowd. So when the camera's on, you just wave, and we'll know that's for us.
Sounds good.
Josh, thank you so much for coming on, buddy.
All right, thanks, Dave. Take care.
And best luck on all your future projects, Josh.
Thanks, I love it. Yeah, you too.
Thanks a lot, buddy. Take care.
Find Dave at davebullis.com. Please make sure to subscribe and share the podcast.